All right, check, check, check.
Check, check, check.
Okay, guys.
Can anybody out there hear us?
Hello.
All right, let's do it.
For you, man.
All right, y'all, we're going to get started here with City Postgame Live.
Hooray!
Our live show, Yay Podcast. We are back. We're just waiting on Vieira's postgame conference.
Where he's going
We're
to
gonna
explain
get the
to
show
us what the hell
started.
went wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So he can get in and apply some wisdom, and then we can deconstruct exactly what he did wrong, because we know better than him.
Obviously.
My name is Jake Beckard. I am on the podcast Blue Balls with my co-host Trey Fillmore.
And I'm Chris Magley from NYCFC Nation and the NYCFC Nation podcast. Together we are collaborating here. We have Mike Anderer here from Blue City Radio. And Trey Fillmore from Blue Balls is also out and about there somewhere.
Out there floating with his mic. He's going to take your questions whenever you have them.
So until we get to Patrick Vieira here on the postgame show, if they're even going to broadcast it. So Jake, we lost 1-0 to Orlando. We remain winless in Orlando. We have a losing record against Orlando. And that's about where the negative things about us playing Orlando stop. So what happened tonight? What did you see?
I think you just saw a team that was basically still in the preseason. I mean, this is exactly what we expected to happen, given the fact that we hadn't consolidated a starting 11 through the course of the preseason. We had some glimmers of hope in the last two matches, but frankly, it should come as no surprise that there was no especially offensive cohesion, and that we basically looked like we were sleepwalking through the first 10 minutes, so we were always playing catch-up from then on. I don't know. What about you, Chris?
Absolutely. I mean, I was really disappointed in what I saw from particularly Maxi Morales. Yeah, right? My mic's super loud, right? It's good loud. All right. So anyway, I was particularly disappointed in Maxi Morales. I thought Alexander Kynes didn't do enough to really make me think he needs to not start. And then the other new guy that was in, we had two others, Alexander Ring and Rodney Wallace, who was lucky he didn't get sent off.
Yeah, and that was we didn't get a lot from the refs this evening, but one of the few things that we did was not getting that second yellow for Rodney Wallace, who was playing recklessly. Really, the whole team had a sort of reckless energy to it, though. It's not totally surprising. I felt like when Ugo got the ball at his feet in that last 10 minutes was maybe the first time you saw somebody really with a sense of confidence in a position of power.
Absolutely. Just in that last, 5-10 minutes when Sean Okoli came on, I was saying to you guys, I think that was the most shots on goal we had the entire game was from Sean Okoli right there. Ooh, all right, we're getting a comment from the bar. All right, yeah, go ahead, Trey.
I'm forcing you. Hey, I got a mic. Oh, hey, also, I'm here. Camera's not on me. A little disappointed about that. This is Trey from Blue Balls as well. I got Rox right here, the president of the Third Rail. Woo! Can you give me just
Rox?
few thoughts about what you thought about our first match of the season?
I thought it was extremely disappointing. There are a bunch of different layers I could talk about. I won't get too much into the tactics because we all kind of watched that. What I will say, I'll try to make the conversation a little more interesting and talk about this interesting tidbit.
Okay.
Jason Christ, when he was head coach of NYCFC in our inaugural season, he screwed up and misunderstood the importance of having first pick in the super draft over top of the allocation order.
Yeah.
And here we are in 2017. He's not a coach of Orlando City, has Kyle Larin. We've dumped Mix. Yeah. Not we, but the team has dumped Mix. And this is the situation we're in. And now we've lost to them again. Mm-hmm. We also lost to him when he was brand new at his team. So to tell me that the team is fresh and they're not really gelled and blah, 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 it's not the thing. We had possession, at least most of the second half anyway. We overall dominated the game as far as control of the pace of the game, and you still lost 1-0. At what point are we going to stop losing these games? Because it's always Orlando or New Jersey. And then we go where games where we should be completely outclassed, Colorado last year.
And that was without Villa too, right?
Without Villa, and with the assistant coach.
Undefeated
right?
Christian
Vieira was
Matanzio,
not on the
yeah.
sidelines.
Injected.
And we're winning these games, and then these games where we're supposed to dominate, we're getting him back.
So,
Brock, that's an amazing take. I'm
So,
so glad I chose to
I guess-
interview you. You're good.
No, it's
I
okay.
decided
Listen,
not to pull the
you-
mic.
Trey, between Trey and I, we're like the kings of going long. You're fine. But
Ouch.
he brings up a good point. So is this a failing of coaching? Did Jason Christ not get a fair shake? Should a coach like Patrick Vieira, every time beat a guy like Jason?
Hey!
What was that?
The ghost of Jason Christ in the house.
Sorry about that.
Jason Christ sending a ghost to spook us.
Trey broke the mic.
But that's a solid question, because that was the first thing that you talked about, Chris, was the fact that we have an abysmal record against Orlando up until and including this match. And that is my question to you is it a particular Achilles heel that Orlando's managed to exploit? Because obviously both teams have changed quite a lot since the inaugural season. And yet we see the same thing, which is essentially Kyle Larin comes up and absolutely dominates with size and with speed, a sense of defensive discombobulation.
Sure, yeah.
Why can't we handle that? Why don't we watch the tapes, and what is it about the tapes that makes them so impossible to assess?
So I think something that Patrick Vieira was really kind of going for in the preseason, he talked a lot about defending from the front. And we saw a little bit of that against Kansas City in the last preseason game. We didn't see that here, with the exception of Rodney Wallace, who was doing his damnedest to defend from the front and protect the back line. I see we have Patrick Vieira's post-game press conference is currently live, but the video's frozen. Yep, there we go. All right, let's see if we can see what he has to say.
When you analyze the game overall, it's out of frustration because we wasn't clinical enough in front of the goals, and we didn't manage well the first 15-20 minutes, of the game, and we knew that the first 20 minutes would be critical, but I think we created enough chances and we played well enough to take at least a point back to New York.
Patrick, you said in a couple weeks ago how you wish you could have had everyone together a little bit earlier. Were you saying how was the chemistry of the attack?
It was better than I thought, honestly. I think when you look at the way we played through the midfield, our combination play and the number of chances that we create was really good. We're just missing the finishing, but I think our play was quite good regarding the number of chances that we create.
Next question, Alicia.
What are your thoughts on Sean Johnson's play for you in the
Sorry?
first game? What are your thoughts on Sean Johnson's play?
I think it was fantastic.
Okay, so that was a little difficult to hear, but the one thing we did hear is Patrick Vieira clearly thought that the chances we created were good and that we just lacked finishing. I thought those chances were few and far between. I thought the chances at the end were good once Sean Nicoli was in, but yeah, I'm not sure I agree with his assessment there.
I think the one thing that he's am I on?
Yeah.
I think the one thing that he's pointing to that I would agree with is the fact that playing against a possession-based team with a possession-based coach, we managed to really dictate the pace of play for the majority of the game. And I think that whether he's talking about, real chances or he's talking about chances, the beginnings of chances, I thought you did see ultimately a lot of good ideas and a lot of trying to capitalize on ideas from the midfield and the offense. And it was true that they often got interrupted or that they were often clumsily handled. One thing I wanted to put out there, and I'm stealing this talking point directly from Trey, so he'll have to forgive me for it.
Oh. Take it.
is that we saw a lot of very high lofted crosses. These crosses that were finding absolutely nobody. And that one element that Orlando has always been able to dominate us in is size. It seemed like this was a matter of the new guys not having figured out that they cannot reach ahead unless they keep the crosses low and tight.
Right.
And a couple times when you saw that happen, whether by accident or by a learning curve, it paid off for on-goal shots.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Am I being thrown to?
I think we're throwing to you right now, yes.
Great.
Trey, you have a question from an audience member.
Me, but whatever. I got Steve here. Steve is a friend of our pod. I think he's a friend of a few pods.
Hi, Steve.
And Steve was here at our last live post-game show in our preseason. Steve, is there one player, you said a player, we were talking outside while we were setting up, and you mentioned to me one player you thought stood out. That didn't necessarily stand out to me, but I'm interested to hear why you would think he stood out.
So I thought that Ring stood out today. I thought he and Wallace were incredible signings.
Yeah.
I think that Ring was in the right position most of the time. I think that he was doing great with both defense and coming in. That one amazing run that Villa set up, I thought was a really good showing. And again, this is a guy, as well as Wallace, that came in really late. Who knew that both MLS transfer rules and United States immigration laws were this complicated?
Yeah.
And he showed up real well. It's going to take a little time for him to get used to. Maybe not next game. Starting maybe a couple games in the future, he will be a solid player for us.
You know, that's a good point to bring up. And Mike Ander and I were actually talking about the advanced position of Alexander Ring. Not something that I think people expected. I think they expected him to be more deep lying in that box-to-box role, and we saw Pirlo actually in that deep lying spot, which is basically his spot. But perhaps in accordance with those wishes to defend from the front, we saw Alexander Ring way up front, almost ready for us to lose possession so he could get it back or just get on the ball and stop any attacks up front there. So his positioning there was certainly very interesting. I thought he was more impactful last week against Kansas City. I'm looking forward. The signs are there, and he can be a very good player for us going forward, I think. I agree with you that he was a good signing, and he fits a need for us very, very well. But there's an interesting segue in there, and in that I don't think Andrea Pirlo was incredibly effective in this game.
I think that's the most controversial thing you've said since we started taping. Really quickly, I want to drop a quote in from Paul Middlecoff, who's watching and commenting on the Facebook live feed. Paul says, "Let's not overreact. Sometimes the better team doesn't win. We had some good plays." And I will use that as a segue to say that I thought Andrea Pirlo had some of the beginnings of the best plays in the match.
Really?
I think he proved again that Andrea Pirlo could spend 10 years in this league and be walking the entire time and still have a meaningful impact on the NYCFC offense. Most of the really beautiful things that happened on the NYCFC side, I think, started with some incredible instantaneous vision from Pirlo. But I know you have a different take specifically on the goal that we went down, and I'd love to hear it.
On the goal that went down? Oh, well, no, that was actually Mike Anders' take.
Then let's get it from Mike Anders.
Yeah, all right, Mike, you want to tag
from
in
the
here?
horse's mouth, if possible.
Ladies and gentlemen from Blue City Radio, Mike Ander.
Hey. So really appreciate everyone coming out, tuning into the City Post Game Live show. Chris just did his shift, and I'm going to jump in for a couple of comments. And, Jay kind of turned it to me. Yeah, I mean, my point was when that goal was scored, Pirlo stopped. Pirlo was waiting for a whistle. He was waiting for a call to come from the referee. It never came, and that was critical because if you look at Larin's position when Larin's on the ground, Pirlo's the closest player. Pirlo has that responsibility and still has to give an effort to stop that play from happening. But what Pirlo does is he just looks, shrugs his shoulders and says, okay, where's the whistle?
I guess so, but also I feel like Pirlo's, You train to avoid having to put Pirlo in that position, and ultimately, I mean, this has been sort of the philosophy about Pirlo since we got him, was like you have to play around his weaknesses, not expect him to fill in the gaps. It's the old dog new trick syndrome all over again.
Well, I think that's one of the things that struck me as odd as we watched this game. Look at the positioning of all the midfielders. There were times when Ring was the furthest back. Pirlo started in the number 6 position probably, the first 15 or 20 minutes. And that was something that I think we weren't expecting, because when you looked at the hole that Andoni Iraola left, I mean, Patrick Vieira had tried this idea last year with having Pirlo play the 6, and it didn't work. He moved away from it. He converted Iraola to that position. You bring in a guy like Herrera, you bring in a guy like Ring, and then you let Pirlo hold that position to start the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the midfield is still sorting itself out. I think you saw that in the fact that, like we were talking about, that Ring started so high, and in fact that we saw Morales failing to get really effective touches on the ball. I don't know. I'm curious to ask you, who do you think of the newcomers was the most effective?
You know what? I would have said before he got the yellow card, Rodney Wallace, but I think he was kind of stifled. I will tell you, one of the things that we were talking about as we were watching the game live, why was that attack coming so much on Harrison's side? You have Wallace and Matarrita playing side by side. These guys can overlap like they're twins. They both know the position so well, but then all the attack was coming from the opposite side. It was obviously deliberate, but I just don't know what the reason for was. You know, why not utilize it? Why not keep Orlando on their toes? You saw when Shelton came in that he had effectiveness against Toya, and you'd like to see them go back and forth and put some pressure on both sides of the Orlando defense.
I wonder if it has something to do with really figuring out the best way to exploit the existing connection between Rodney Wallace and Matarrita. That you know that you have this sort of powerhouse link up that you want to figure out how it can be used to its best effect. Arguably, they have the best chemistry of anybody on the team right now, given how much of a shakeup there's been. And there's been, I think we're still learning how to employ it.
So let's go back out to the man in the field. Let's talk to Trey, see what he's got for us.
Our Julie Stewart-Binks, Trey.
I am Binks. I cheer every time Binks is on the screen. She's a great reporter. And she just got signed to ESPN, which is why she was doing this game. This has nothing to do with our team, but Mike might have a question that does. This is Mike, a.k.a. Blue Meanie Mike, which is how I recognized him. Mike, do you have a question for our little podcast?
So Vieira's mantra this year has been defend from the front, but as Orlando has demonstrated a couple of times during the game, teams will play direct against us and basically lob the ball over our midfield. What's the answer to that? Because we're overcommitting, and that's our style.
Well, you want to answer it
Fellas,
first?
Do I want to answer? I wasn't thinking of an answer I was asking.
Did we overcommit? I think that's the question that I'm trying to think about.
What I think is interesting is that normally we did move our midfield forward, and part of that is because we don't have a real number 6. But that wasn't necessarily a problem. I don't know if we back away from that approach, because normally when you see midfields push up, you have open passing lanes for the other team. But we didn't see Orlando take advantage of that, nor did we see many passing lanes open anyway. So I think that the team should stick with it. I think that the problem more... I think offensively was more of was squandering the chances that were created because we had a high midfield was more of the problem that we dealt with in terms of pushing up. You'll get those lofted balls going up. It's just a matter of staying defensively disciplined, and I know that we didn't for our goal, but I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about that too.
I was gonna move right along because Paul's got a good question for us, and I wanted to sling it to you.
Let me address Mike's point real quick and just say, I think the one thing that made me feel comfortable with Vieira's comments about defending from the front was the amount of possession that NYCFC had. It's not like Orlando was moving the ball systematically up the front the way NYCFC was, and I think that's one of the benefits of having pressure, having guys like Harrison and Wallace put pressure on their backs and say, hey, these guys force them to make a decision. I think that's how I interpret defending from the front.
I wanted to bring up this question that Paul's got. Thoughts on the change to 3 in the back? Was it too late? Will we see some more WM in the future? Or, the parenthetical that he hasn't written here, which is, was it just a desperation move, or is this a viable tactic that we might see in the future?
I mean, when you're trailing and you're in, one of the things I said to Chris as we were watching the game, these substitutions were coming in late. NYCFC trailed for a long time, and we needed to try to get some change. I like the substitution. I like the fact that they really made Jason Christ think about how he was going to counteract the substitutions. But I agree. I think they came too late.
Do you think that the two forwards with Okoli and Villa has a chance of paying off in the future? Is Villa ready to embrace that style of play?
I think Okoli is. I think
that much is obvious.
and I think Villa would like to have the opportunity maybe to be a distributor every once in a while, not always have that pressure. Look, when do you think Okoli's going to come on? Okoli's going to come on end of the game when Villa's tired. So when Villa doesn't want to make those sprints, when he doesn't want to chase the ball, when he doesn't want to just put pressure on the backs, that's when Villa would embrace the Okoli substitution.
I've just got this inherent fear of Villa's work ethic. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm going to tag on that. You don't have to turn the camera to me, but you don't have to.
No, it's coming.
Oh, no. JK, I'm beautiful. I think that we've only seen David Villa subbed out once in our 2 years, now our third year, which was against our first game against New Jersey. So he's not a player that's going to get subbed out who wants to get subbed out. So I think Okoli might just fit in exactly how he did in this match. If we're down late in the game, he's going to come in and provide some extra pressure.
Trey, I got a question for you.
Oh, beautiful.
Is there any world in which you see Briant get a start in front of Cayennes after this match?
Maybe. I think he tightened up later. My only complaint was on the goal that was scored against us. I think more often when you're against target forwards like we were, Kyle Larin, you need to know that. The defense needs to know that. And Cayennes and Matarrita could have easily switched. You could have had Matarrita move into the box and be more of a poacher for any late runs, and have Cayennes, who's a dedicated center back, cover Kyle Larin, but that didn't happen. Kyle Larin's a tank. I don't know why we had Matarrita covering him. That was an easy switch, and if you watch it again, they had a bajillion times to switch, and they didn't. So,
oh no, Trey, come on up. Let's.
I'm coming up now.
Yeah,
oh,
let's
okay,
come. Let's get this moving around. We're about
Jake,
20 minutes into the show.
Oh, Perps do it.
I'll tag in down here.
So, it's an interesting thing with the substitutions. Chris,
yes,
which of the substitutions did you think was the most effective?
Oh, unquestionably, it was Sean Okoli. I think was certainly the most. I mean, we saw him kind of sell out for offense at the end there. We saw McNamara on for Allen. Who was the middle one? Oh, Kyrie on for, Mac. Yeah. So, that's true. McNamara had that nice over-the-back pass and over-the-back line, pass. So, Okoli definitely had the best impact. But the decisions, I understand what Vieira's trying to do by bringing in all these attackers and everything like that. He's trying to sell out for the draw and everything like that. But, the fact that Pirlo played the whole 90, and I know I left the desk up there kind of crapping on Pirlo a little bit, but I thought that we would see Herrera because we were having a lot of trouble keeping the ball in their end. Yes, we held possession, but it was constant passing around the back, which I know is what the possession game is. But I would have liked to see more opportunity moving forward. I would have liked to see Maxi Morales not have to worry so much about playing in his own half and be able to pass forward instead of just back to Cayennes and to Chanot, who were getting the crap kicked out of them by the Orlando attack the whole game. Ugo, to answer your question.
So, Trey, the same question to you. Substitute that you thought had the most impact on the game.
Sub that had the most impact. I think Ugo's an obvious one, but it's kind of more visible when you get closer to the mic, says Perpsu. Ugo had the more obvious influence being a forward who has the opportunity to take shots. But, I think McNamara did a good job. I think Kyrie Shelton look, he has to put those chances away. He has to make good decisions. He got the ball too many times in good positions and didn't do anything with it, and that's not worth it.
He's
and
still not selfish enough.
I know that was a problem for this team as a whole, and I think that was the number one problem coming out with this. I think this team did a good job defensively. It did a good job holding possession. It did a good job creating chances, but it didn't do a good job creating quality chances and taking advantage of an Orlando team that is just purely on paper not as good as us and didn't have Kaká for most of the match, which is completely unfortunate. I mean, that we couldn't take advantage of such a big loss. And I think it's going to take with more time having Rodney Wallace and all those new players working up there. Ring's a fantastic distributor. We didn't see it on the field tonight because he didn't have the opportunity and we weren't creative in making chances. And Jake did take my point in terms of that too many high crosses for a team that has, when Maxi and David Villa are in the box, the tallest of them is 5'7". That's not productive, and we saw more productive chances when we kept the ball on the ground.
Now, I guess that begs the question. Now, we saw Okoli, like you said, he has the most obvious influence because he gets to take the shot. But I guess it raises the question, is this team as a whole not selfish enough? Should we be taking – I know a lot of people kind of didn't really like Steven Mendoza all that much last season. I mean, he was an impact sub, yes, but he pulled the trigger. Like, every time he got the ball, he pulled the trigger. He put shots on net. David Villa does that for us, and now in one match we've seen Okoli do that for us. Do the other people on the team, the midfielders and the wingers, need to be more selfish and take more shots?
I mean, I think when you look at a guy like Kyrie Shelton, I think I would say that definitely. We talked about that as the game was going on. I thought Harrison did enough to take shots and to be creative. Obviously, you're not going to have any shortage of shots from David Villa. I think Morales had an opportunity once or twice, and he kind of chipped into the middle and was looking for a pass rather than a shot. So overall, I'd say yes, because what did I just name? I named two guys out of the bunch that actually did it, and Pirlo, I think, still is too far back. I think he still sees his role as a playmaker and not as a goal scorer, and that's going to be troubling because even when he gets within range, you got to test guys. You saw the post game. Joe Bednick got the highest Dowdy player index. I don't know exactly what that means, but I guess it seems he played pretty well because he did have those chances. We're getting a call, so we're going to try to bring this call in.
We have a call.
So let's see who's on the line.
Who is it? Who are you who are calling us?
315, you're on the call.
Paul's dominating these comments. He said Jack and Kyrie are selfish.
Hello?
Ooh, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. What's going on?
Can you hear the call?
Hey, it's Rob from Long Island.
All right, Rob from Long Island. What do you got?
We're trying to bump your level up.
My question for you guys is, if you could take one player who played tonight and send them to San Antonio, who would it be?
Thanks, Rob. Rob said Rob, right? I don't want to murder his name.
One player from San Antonio.
It's hard to murder Rob.
One player who played tonight that we could send to San Antonio.
One player from tonight's roster that we could send to San Antonio. Oof.
But yeah, let's turn that.
Honestly? Anybody? Tony Larson, you got an opinion on this one? One player from tonight's roster that you would send to San Antonio.
To San Antonio?
Not for like a river walk kind of joyful thing, but for our USL team.
You know what? It's just one game. I didn't see anyone from tonight's roster necessarily to send to San Antonio. I'd have to give them a couple games. I mean, we saw a couple substitutes later on, Okoli or Ugo, as he likes to be called, come in, but he didn't really make a difference necessarily. So I think we needed a couple more games before that decision.
All right, Rob, so the first answer was no, we don't have an answer. Tony had no comment after one game.
Rob said, don't murder me, I will send Kyrie. He's saying it like it's not even subjunctive, he said.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with that. I think of the players tonight, and I'm not saying I would definitely do it, but given the choice of the players we saw tonight, Kyrie's the guy, because I think he needs to be coached to, like we were saying before, he needs to be more selfish. He needs to do something with the ball besides freeze up when it's at his feet and then pass a low cross on the ground into nobody, or if there's somebody there, great. I would like to see his skill developed a little bit more. And of the people that we saw tonight, he's the one that needs that work the most.
He's got such good speed. Let's turn this camera back around.
Rob, what else you got for us?
A little insider info. Next year, we will be affiliated with the Rochester Rhinos instead of San Antonio.
We're going to be affiliated with Rochester and not San Antonio? I didn't know that.
Yeah, next year.
Hopefully they don't beat us in the U.S. Open Cup, because that would be embarrassing.
Thanks so much for the call, Rob.
This camera leg is broken. Jake, fix it. Thank you.
So let's, as we move on and we look at the game, what are the second half? I mean, we saw some changes. We saw some things happen for NYCFC, but it wasn't crisp enough. What were the things that you thought you would have liked to have seen NYCFC? Is it just about finishing, or are there other things that could have been done with the lineup?
It's chemistry, it's finishing. I just got a text from I have to be closer. I'm so sorry. I did this last time. I just got a text from my one Red Bull friend, and who's watching the game that's on right now. She told me, good thing that games don't really matter. The next 20 games don't really matter. I mean, this is a playoff-based cup system, and you have to work hard and well and build consistency. But we can't kill ourselves over opening day losses, especially when they look impressive. And I know like every point counts, but we need to know that we have a quality team on the field, and I think we saw that, and that it's just going to take time. And to answer your question, these are problems. The problems we had tonight are problems that are going to take time. It's not like we were too slow or we need a new player. It's more, we dominated possession and things like that. Jake, do you have? Nope. You're telling me to get closer again. Oh, I'm so sorry, y'all.
Let's talk about the energy of the game, because we were here at St. Pat's Bar, and the enthusiasm was very high. At what point did you think that the crowd lost it? Were they still engaged throughout the whole game?
No, they were embarrassed. I mean, they didn't have possession. It's hard to cheer when you don't have possession. I really like having that wall. I mean, if we get a stadium, at some point, I'm really looking forward to getting a wall in our new stadium, because it really added to the experience. It was great.
Was the question about the atmosphere at the stadium or the atmosphere at the bar?
Well, I wasn't listening, so
The question was about the atmosphere. Were the fans
at the bar? No, I think the fans were great. I think you had that last minute where the dread starts to set in, where you know that it's not going your way. But until then, people were singing. I mean, it's hard to be excited when you're losing from the 10th minute and losing the rest of the game. So I think all things considered, everyone's excited for a new season.
I thought things were crazy. I'll go ahead and say that.
All
I
right,
thought,
let's go back to
especially
Jake.
in the last 10 minutes, you had the glimmers, I mean, not just glimmers of hope, but fireworks of hope. I mean, I don't know how you guys felt, but I thought that it was explosive in here, and that everybody was ready to pull away with that draw that felt like a win. It was so close you could taste it when Okoli was out there. So I don't think that it flagged for a second, honestly. I think there was a little bit of a stutter, but that the first goal was not a totally surprising experience, and that there was full expectations that there was a bounce back that was on the cusp. We got some more to talk about that.
Let me just say, first of all, I'm just so happy that the season has started again. I'm excited for this season. I'm so happy that my favorite team, my favorite sport is back in actual competitive play. Also, this is a team that you don't watch if you have a heart condition. So whether it's we're winning and we might give up that last second equalizer, or we're losing and we might get that last second equalizer, or that DC game with Frank Lampard scoring those 2 goals. This is a team that's either going to drop it or come back or not, but either way, you're going to get some heart palpitations.
And ultimately, isn't that what you want?
No. But I want to jump on this Mix band. I'm sorry. Oh, my God. Sorry, Mix was here earlier. It's got my heart all aflutter. It's like your ex coming to your bachelor party. It was very weird to have Mix screwed here, not watching the game, just to take pictures. Anyway, I want to get on this Pirlo bandwagon. I'm getting a little taste of people disappointed with Pirlo's play. Those are some of the most beautiful passes you will see in MLS, and he made 9 of them, and they all connected, and most of them were key passes that led to chances. I don't understand how you don't find the value of Pirlo on this team. No one can do what he can do in this league, let alone on our team, and he was miraculous tonight. It was beautiful.
One of the things that we realized when Maxi Morales got signed to this team was that NYCFC was going to be a different club than it was last year. And I wonder if that means that Andrea Pirlo's, spectacular passes, maybe they're not going to find the right people on the other end of them. Maybe maybe you're expecting to see Morales be the playmaker, and rather than distributing with beautiful balls over the top, he's going to be dribbling through midfields. He's going to be finding Villa. He's going to be connecting with Harrison. I mean, we again, it came up during the game. Harrison, Morales, and Villa. When did they actually link up and do something spectacular this game? Because we saw it against Houston, we saw it against Sporting Kansas City, and we didn't see it tonight.
I agree. I think we were more productive than in those games, but I think I was more impressed with our dominance against Kansas City than I was with the kind of dominance we had in this game, because it was more fruitful. I mean, more quality chances. And Orlando doesn't have a quality defense on. I didn't even know Jonathan Spector was still playing. I thought they were like, Taylor Twellman's like, yeah, they brought Jonathan Spector in to help whatever. I was like, oh, as a manager? Like, as a coach? What is he doing still? Jesus, how old is he? And he had a great game. But outside of that, they don't really have a great defense on paper, so I was really surprised we couldn't put one away.
So,
you got a question?
No? Okay.
You want to say anything about the game?
No. So, okay.
Oh, we do have a question from the field.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Jake.
All right, my name is Ahmed. I'm from the Bronx, and I'm a big fan of this whole thing that you got working, the Super Friends of podcasts. I like it.
By your powers combined.
And it's amazing, because as soon as Trey talked and he was talking to me, I said, yeah, I know that's Trey, I know that's Jake, I know that's Mike. So
we all have face for radio, so.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
All I got to say is, don't worry, guys. Calm down. Maybe it's the couple of beers that I had, but all I got to say is I think that the project that we have, it's working out. I think having Pirlo in the back, I'm watching something on the Red Bulls game, so I'm just paying it. It's all right. But all I got to say is I think having Morales and Pirlo in the back and the speed on the wings, and I think it's just getting the final third, being more technical and actually doing the finishing. I think we're in good shape. I've never been so happy with a loss, so I think we'll be fine. And watching what's happened in Tucson and seeing the work they put in, I think they'll be fine.
So you mentioned you were in Tucson, and that's where we connected when we saw that you were posting all those great photos. When you were there, did that give you a better understanding of what Vieira was expecting to see from this team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he was. One thing that you saw is that he's a very hard coach. He definitely calls out players when they make mistakes, and it was good to see, because it's very much a New York style. We like to call out players and put them to account for making mistakes.
Sure.
So I thought it was very nice, and you saw that Villa. I was very surprised that Villa was not very sharp today, given the fact that he looked on it and he was really working hard. I think it was just an off day, but really I think that with the central midfielders having Ring there to protect Pirlo and Morales, and the ability for them to put the through balls to the speedy wingers and Villa, I really like the idea that they have, and I really think it was just a lack of the ability for them to actually execute the plan that they wanted to do.
Right.
I really feel good about the season coming up. It's the only time that I've actually had an opening loss where I'm actually pretty happy about it.
Well, I mean, you bring up a good point that at the end of the day, it is only one game. And, we only lost 1-0. If you look at it statistically, and this is coming off MLSsoccer.com, and Tony Larson and I were just talking about this at the back over there, there's really no reason we should have lost this game. We outshot them. We outshot on target. Looking at the stats, I mean, Joe Bendick pretty much just stood on his head, which it really didn't feel that way watching it live. It didn't feel like we created all these chances on goals and forced a lot of saves.
No, you're completely right. We do have a Facebook question from Roddy Russell Jr.,
Hey, Roddy.
friend of multiple pods. Do you think this result is the first of the early winless streak we tend to have, Chris?
Oh, God, I hope not. So coming up, thank you, Trey, for the upcoming schedule. We have...
Here, shout out Jake and me.
We have DC United, we have Montreal, and then San Jose in the next couple matches. DC United's going to be a tough game. They're always a tough game. I think these next couple games are really going to... They have to test it. We need an early result.
Well, yeah, looking forward, DC United now have Patty, Revolt.
So that noise you hear in the background is Atlanta United just went up 1-0 on they who shall not be named.
First MLS goal, and my one friend that's a Red Bull fan.
It wasn't
texted
Almiron,
me
right?
Saying that they were gonna lose, so they knew it. Oh, back to New Jersey. Go back to New Jersey. There's a lot of new Atlanta fans hanging out in the bar tonight. But come on, who knew? People keep saying don't get too hype about Atlanta. That's a dangerous lineup. But in the meantime, to answer our question,
at
the end of the night, Atlanta and Orlando could be the top two teams in the East. So just think about that for a second.
Wow.
Our next game,
Short-lived.
DC United, Patty, Rivaldo, Mullins is killing it right now. And Montreal is obviously a good game, a good team, if not one of the best teams in the East. And then San Jose sucks, so hopefully we can beat them. But I could easily see us losing the next two games. It's not impossible, and I'm a little scared about that. I didn't think about it till now. Thanks, Roddy.
I think we're feeling kind of that absence of Frank Lampard right now because we're seeing shades of early in our first season where David Villa was the only person who could finish anything, and when he can't, we're screwed. We saw some flashes here from Sean Okoli at the end of the game here, but he's obviously not going to be playing every match unless we drastically change our tactics.
All right, flipping the camera back.
I just wanted to address the question of the losing streak because I think part of it is this team, we talked about it before the season started, this team got together late, and we were afraid that getting them together so late was going to be one of the things that was going to lead to the losing streak. But the other thing, when you look at the stats and all the shots, Sean Okoli's shots did not test Joe Bednick. These were soft touches where he was hitting him on the. So sometimes that's a question. Say stats can be misleading, and you have to really focus on how many quality chances did we have. Look at Villa. Villa had that one ball late in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to volley it from waist high as opposed to just settle it down and put it back across the box. I know he wants to go for the spectacular every once in a while, but sometimes you just got to go for simple.
Putting a ball in orbit is pretty spectacular.
I have a take on this. No offense, Chris. Overused talking point of are we going to miss Frank Lampard?
Listen, you're a Chelsea fan.
I know. No, we don't want to lose listeners. We can't all be perfect. Blah blah blah. Top of the table. I think that I'm bantering about the EPL right now. I think that when you're trying to connect the idea of missing quality chances and Frank Lampard leaving and missing those goals, he was not a player that was responsible for numerous quality chances in a game. His scoring to chances ratio was very, very small, and he was a player that just made it matter when it counted. I think that with Maxi, we do have a player that can control the midfield. We didn't see much of it tonight, but I think we will see more of it in the future. We saw it in the preseason anyway, so it's not like it's not there. And I think just with the signings that this team made, we're going to be able to, it's good to have 75% of Lampard spread across multiple players than one Frank Lampard in terms of signings.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you that we need to make up for those goals across multiple players. The problem is, I have yet to see. I want Maxi to be that guy, but the way in which he plays, like from deep in the midfield forward, I feel like he's not going to be in position a lot to score a lot of those goals. I feel like he's going to be more the setup guy. The problem is, who is he going to be setting up? Is it going to be Rodney Wallace? Is it going to be Jack Harrison? Somebody needs to assume that mantle of
who is going to be the guy that pulls people off Villa. I mean, Jack Harrison, we saw it, and I tweeted out during the game, that teams haven't changed their philosophy when defending Jack Harrison. It's put 3 bodies on him and, force him off the ball. We need to have more dimensions in our attack to free up our playmakers. And right now, if you can stifle David Villa, if you can stifle Jack Harrison, you kill our attack.
Yes. Jake. No, I agree. I love Jack Harrison. Chris, can you turn this camera around for me?
Oh, yep, sorry.
Jake, we have a question from Rob from Long Island.
Hi, Rob from Long Island.
Do you think the starting 11 changes next week? If so, how? And you can take it and pitch it to other people hanging around.
I think that's a good question. Let's assume it does. Let's assume that it has to. I mean, it doesn't have to, but let's assume for the fun of the question that it does. What's the first change that you make to the starting 11 between this week and next week? World.
Anybody?
Because I do have my opinion.
Put a microphone in someone's face. They'll answer.
3-5-2.
3-5-2.
3 center backs. 3-5-2.
Rob is from Queens, by the way.
Hi, Rob from Queens and not Long Island.
All right, so who are your changes, though? Who starts riding the pine? Or I guess the vinyl racing seat.
No, I would put Briant. I mean, look, you still need him to kind of be the guy that dominates the air.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know I'm unpopular on this, but I do think that having 3 center backs will kind of put some stability there. I think also having Ring in front of them will give them a lot of stability. And having then the wing backs really, letting Matarrita do what he loves to do, which is being on, the complete other side and not
Make
really
him a
having
forward
defensive
already.
duties. I think the 3-5-2 is the way to go.
Okay.
What else? What about Steve? Steve, what you think?
So I've always thought that we should be seeing a little bit more 2 striker formations in there. I think Okoli, it might take him a game or 2 more to warm up, and he's going up a league in professionalism and in competition. So I do like the 3-5-2 idea. I would see a Briant, Chanot, Cayens back line, maybe not necessarily in that order. Ring and Pirlo in front of them. Matarrita on the left. On the right, I'll leave it open between Allen and Gomez, and we can have a nice half-hour-long discussion about that. Maxi would be the number 10, and then Villa and Okoli up top. I really just, and I'm a little partial towards 2 striker formations anyway. I think that it would be a solid look for them, or at least a good experiment. Maybe rule it out. But they need to do a little bit of experimentation. The 4-3-3 is not necessarily working 100% of the time right now.
Now, for all our listeners, we're assuming here that the tactics in the 11 are going to change. That's not necessarily going to be the case, obviously.
Rob also said, I agree with the guy next to Trey, but that's Chris, and I think he was talking about Steve, who is next to Jake. But either way, this is Chris. Perps 2.
Who you can't see right now because the camera is turned towards me.
That's also true.
I would agree 100%. I mean, I think one of the consistent things that we're talking about here is trying to get Briant back engaged. I think particularly early on in this season, it's really important to find whatever chemistry you can in the back line. And one of the only really strong points, first of all, for Freddie Briant in last season, and second of all, for the team in general when it comes to defense, is the connection between Briant and Chanot. So I would love to see that starting at the top of the match next week.
Okay, so moving on to something a little bit more positive. The final question
we're finna wrap up.
Given to me from off to the side here was what player surprised you, Trey, today?
What'd you say, Chris?
Good or bad? What players surprised you today? Good or bad?
Obviously Ugo, stepped up in a big spot. I think Harrison's first half was strong. I know that he held onto the ball a little bit too long in a few possessions, but overall, I think he was decisive and was a player that moved the ball forward on the pitch, if anything else. But also, I think that I don't know. I wasn't surprised by many people because I think a lot of people played well. I mean, I was surprised that Pirlo was still pretty, still has the magic in his feet.
We got a take from the audience on the subject of Maxi Morales.
Yeah, I think Maxi actually was disappointing this game. While it's one game, the physicality was just too much for him. He was dominated, his passes were off, so I think we need to see him adjust more to the league, and hopefully eventually by the next game he can get it again. So, I mean, he has so much potential, and he just is so beautiful on the ball. It just didn't show in this match.
I was surprised by both subs that we saw towards the end of the game. I mean, obviously you saw, the first two subs we saw, Kyrie and Tommy Mac. These are two people who have recently been put on notice implicitly by Vieira's, by the acquisitions for the team. So seeing Tommy Mac come on and still have a meaningful effect on the match was a very exciting surprise for me, somebody who's always been excited to see him play and feels like what he adds technically is different than what anybody else has for this team.
Chris, what do you think? And by the way, I'm calling Chris Perp Stew because his Reddit username is Perpetual Student.
And we live on the internet.
Yes. So Tony actually kind of stole mine with Maxi Morales. I completely agree. But just for the sake of something different, I really wish that I saw a little bit more from Alexander Cayens. I thought he looked very comfortable with the ball at his feet in preseason, and I would have really, really, really liked to see a little bit better distribution from the back. I feel like, considering how much we pass back to them, just a little bit more starting of the attack with the center backs instead of just shuffling it off to either Pirlo or to whoever's going to start the attack, I guess Maxi or Pirlo. I'd like to see Cayens, because I know he wants to. He said in his NYCFC interview that he likes having the ball at his feet. He likes assisting. He likes starting the attack. So I want to start to see that from him going forward.
Lex just poorly. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think outside of that first mistake, I think Cayens was okay defensively, but that's an astute opinion. It's knowing that this is not just a defender doesn't just defend and a forward doesn't just score goals. So, looking forward to it. I'm getting a weird static too. I don't know if Mike wants to check that out. You want to hear this? It's like weird static.
I hear it too. It's like a
yeah,
it's okay. We're actually going to wrap things up here in a little bit,
you were
folks.
pointing to me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like, some people just want to hear me talk.
So, guys, just thank you very much for joining us today. Everybody out in internet land, thank you very much. We'll be here after not here, but we'll be here on Facebook on Blue York 1 after every away match, obviously because during the home matches we'll be there. And, we'll be tagging off with co-hosts, yes. Between all the hosts of all the various podcasts, me for NYCFC Nation.
Hi, I'm Trey Fillmore from Blue Balls Pod, and this is Jake, who's going to peek in front of the camera.
I'm not, but I am Jake, and I'm from Blue Balls Pod.
And Mike Andrew from Blue City Radio. But we really appreciate everyone
coming out. We had a great time. Thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, guys.
And thanks for your questions. And tell your friends, tune in. And I had a great time again. It was a lot of fun.
All right, hopefully we get a win next time, guys. Let's go NYCFC. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. At Blue Balls Pod, NYCFC on Twitter.